Talking to our guest over here, Marissa, who is with the Texas Tribune, Marissa Evans, because we're talking about a subject that is very difficult to discuss, but I think it's an important one that we're going to be hearing a lot about in January as well. Federal judge is delaying a Texas rule that would force clinics to bury or cremate aborted fetuses. It was supposed to start today, but abortion rights groups filed a legal challenge. And that is where Marissa comes in to talk to us about what she heard in the courtroom and why this is important. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning to you. Okay, so why didn't the rule start today? I guess it's because they filed that legal brief.
Right. So a federal judge, Sam Sparks, in the federal courts here in Texas decided, the state and the Center for Reproductive Rights need more time to come up with their side and their arguments over why the state should or should not have a fetal remains burial rule.
Okay, so I know it's a complicated subject, Marissa, but kind of give us the background on what those for and against are saying about this.
So the anti-abortion groups are basically saying, well, we don't believe that fetal remains should be incinerated or put in a landfill. It's cruel. It's not great for those aborted fetuses.
Right.
We should be respecting them a bit more than that. They're so much more than just regular medical waste. And you have groups like the Center for Reproductive Rights saying, well, no, this is going to add a burden to women who already have either chosen abortion or have maybe had a miscarriage. And they also have told the state, the Department of State Health Services, that they have not given enough clarity over who is actually going to pay for this. Now, the state has said providers will pay for this, but at the same time, those same groups are saying, well, who's to say they're not going to pass on those costs to patients?
To patients, and then maybe the patients would say, what, I can't afford this?
I can't afford it, or, this is too much, this is emotionally taxing for me as well as potentially financially taxing.
Sure.
They just went through this medical procedure of some form or fashion, and now they have to worry about what to do with the remains. So, and the state has said, you don't have to have a funeral for it, but at the same time, even if you are, going to incinerate it or do something else or cremating it, then that means that someone still has to pay for that.
Right.
And so the state has said, well, the providers would, and the actual Center for Reproductive Rights and groups like that are saying, well, no, the patient probably would.
So there's a lot of
debate,
there's
a lot
back and forth. So that's what happened in court on Thursday. What's going to happen on court come January?
So the judge has said he wants both sides to come back January 3rd through 4th. They're each going to get 5 hours apiece, so it's going to be a really long time, both days. And they're basically going to have their chance to make a full case to the judge saying why this should or shouldn't go through. And the judge expressed some skepticism at first over the timing of when the state chose to start the process of proposing this rule back in July. It was a few days after the HB2 Supreme Court case. So the judge was he's like, well, why is this happening now? And even the judge said, what's the difference if we put it in a jar, if we put it in the ground, or we put it in a landfill? What's
Sparks said that?
Yes, that's
Okay.
he still has some questions for the state over the reasons for this, and for the Center for Reproductive Rights, they still have a challenge too, convincing the judge that this is not the best thing for women in Texas.
And so they'll have 5 hours apiece, not total, 5 hours apiece for them to make their case. When you were in that courtroom on Thursday, there are no cameras allowed. There's no photography, so it's just you in the courtroom with both sides. What was the feeling like inside that courtroom?
It was quiet, obviously, but I think if anything, both sides were really earnestly trying to make their point, because you're having to explain science to this judge, and this judge even said, he's like, I'm old, I'm not that smart, you're gonna have to explain everything to me.
In plain simple terms,
right,
yeah.
So he didn't understand gestation period. He's like, well, I don't understand what's the difference between where medical waste goes or doesn't go. Like, why are we creating this exception,
right,
for this particular type of medical, for a fetus? So, like I said, he still has a lot of questions a little bit about the public health benefits, about the science behind it, the reasoning behind this. He's even said during the hearing, it seems as if the abortion debate has gone just a little bit meaner in my time on the bench, because now we have these rules coming out just a few days after the state lost their case at the Supreme Court. So he still has questions on the intent behind it.
And we've said before, when that ruling came down, that this was not the end of the abortion debate. And so this is kind of the next chapter.
Exactly.
And then even after this chapter closes, I don't think it's going to be the final one.
Not at all. Not with the legislature coming back.
Marissa Evans, I appreciate your
Yes,
time
thanks.
on this difficult subject. But